exactly right. Okay, over to you, boss. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, Wilfred, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm here as President of the Food and Drink Federation. I'm also a part-time baker, and you probably find this hard to believe, but I did row at university for about 3 years, but obviously gave up probably slightly earlier than David, judging from the difference in our physiques. The food and drink industry is a very large component of UK manufacturing. In fact, it's the biggest. We represent 15% of all manufacturing in the UK, and as such, we are the big boys. We are number one. We're not number 24, we are number one as processors. And we make everything from bread, obviously, to cooking sauces, to yogurts, to ready meals, to biscuits, all across. A lot of the stuff that isn't produce, but is processed, that you buy in supermarkets, is made by our members. And we are a hugely successful, high-value manufacturing sector with world-class capabilities in production, in new product development, in distributing. You know, we send out as Warburton's 1,000 vehicles every day to get bread into stores. And we have to be good at logistics. And we're also pretty good at sales and marketing. Now, the challenge is, how do we keep it that way? And at FDF, we are very much aware that our sector's future sustainability is extremely dependent on the skills of the people that work and their ability to innovate. And I think that skills drive a load of things in our business. They drive productivity, they drive innovation, and they drive efficiency. And lots of people think you can invest capital. And as somebody whose family business has invested 350 million over the last 10 years, I can tell you it isn't the only answer. Because all that capital does is enable those three big things. It's the people that drive it. You can buy a nice new bakery, or build a nice new bakery, and if you haven't got the people with the skills and experience to run it, you'll have just wasted your money and be paying the bank a lot of interest for a long time. So skills drive productivity, and they are the thing that we use to differentiate ourselves when we compete with one another. At Warburton's we have a saying that the opposition could buy the same kit, they could buy the same flour if they were willing to pay for it, they could even try and nick our recipes. But the one thing they can't really do is sort of have our people, because if we look after them and train them, then they're ours, and they're our biggest source of competitive advantage. Now, when I first started work in the food industry, and I was obviously recruited into child slave labour at the age of 16, because that was regarded as your induction into the family business. But the jobs in it were, there was an enormous amount of shift work, sat on the end of production lines, and the content of the work was, I have to say, a little bit boring. Not for me, so I went at least initially to work in the financial services business. Quite a few parallels there, only the shift work was in a slightly different environment. We now have a very different industry to the one that I first started working 35 years ago. Our industry does provide high quality jobs with long tenure. And at FDF we had some research conducted by the Institute of Manufacturing at Cambridge University. And we found a number of things. Firstly, that weekly earnings in our bit of the food industry are above those of the economy as a whole. That employees stay in post with our members on average nearly 10 years. And that a third of our people have A-level qualifications and nearly a fifth of them have degrees. So all the myths about food manufacturing being low quality jobs, it's all bunk. And we are absolutely a people business. But there are a lot of issues that we've got to get to grips with in the next few years. We've got changing consumer demand, we've got big changes in technology that we're currently dealing with, and we have a lot of pressure to produce new products for consumers that don't want to buy the same thing every day. We've got to produce fantastic new products at the rate of about 7,000 a year as an industry. And that, for those, we are heavily reliant on the capability of our workforce and our ability to attract talent for the future. One of the things about getting old that I've noticed is that the people who you thought were young have sort of slightly aged with you. And they're now starting to either think about retirement or retire. I find that slightly depressing when you convert it into the challenge that we face as an industry. Over a third of our workforce in food manufacturing will retire in the next 20 years. And they're not the untrained people that land into our industry straight from school or college or university. They're the people with a whole load of experience and a whole load of, hopefully, skills and training behind them. So we have a big job to replace those people. And it's something that our Scottish division of FDF has been working north of the border in partnership with the Scottish Government to address. And it also explains why FDF strongly supports the work of the National Skills Academy for food and drink manufacture and Improve in partnership with them in addressing the needs of our sector going forward. Improve is working with FDF and others to develop new activity to promote the sector to young people. And we're going to be promoting higher level apprenticeships. We're developing new qualifications to support sustainable practices in our sector, and they will be playing a key role in helping to improve the situation with regard to the acute shortages of food scientists that all of us have been moaning about for the last 10 years in our sector. And at Warburton's we have good first-hand knowledge of the National Skills Academy. One of the things about automating and building bigger bakeries that we find is that people lose touch with core baking skills, and they learn how to manage and operate large pieces of machinery, and those are very much required skills. But we've been working with the National Skills Academy to make sure that people don't lose the core understanding of how a loaf of bread's made. And in fact, at Warburton's, whenever we recruit somebody into middle management, we don't tell them how to operate the email system first. In their first week, we send them down into the test bakery and they learn to make a loaf of bread from scratch with these. And that's what they spend a full day doing in our test bakery. And that's to give them an understanding. And they may not arrive thinking that those are the skills that they need, but we regard it as a business as very important. Now, we work in pretty tough times, and there are an enormous number of challenges ahead for us as a food industry. But at the end of it, I'm pretty optimistic that we'll address them all, and that the food sector will continue to play a critical role in underpinning the future success of the UK economy. But we won't do it unless we solve the biggest challenge of all, and that is skilling our people. Thank you.